Hello guys and welcome to another video. The KINGSONG S20 is the most awaited wheel from the EUC community. Its pre-order launch was quite successful and finally in New York we had a demo, so I went there and I would like to give you my first impression of the wheel. The S20 has a really interesting design because it was built around the suspension, so they wanted to design a wheel with a suspension and put the battery around the suspension and then some modular component around it. So you end up with a wheel that looks like straight up from a manga. So when I saw it first, it was quite impressive, like quite tall actually, bigger than I expected. The red and black, I was not a fan on the picture, but when you see it for real, like yeah, it looks good, it looks quite original. So what about the build quality? On the build quality of the S20, I must say I'm quite skeptical, at least with the pre-production demo we had, because some parts look quite solid, the suspension part, and actually they are red and the color is quite beautiful, and then around the wheel you have some plasticky part at the top and at the front has a bumper in plastic and it's quite fragile. I saw a rider having a light crash with the S20 and already the bumper was broken.
Oh no! Where's Sean? Yo, Sean.
What's going on?
Shit.
It's alright, it's just plastic. Keep going.
Sorry, bro.
So I'm told the production version will not have such a plasticky bumper, but I would like to see. Right now I can only testify with the pre-production wheel that I was given to test. Overall, I feel like there are a lot of moving parts around the wheel and I would like to see how that wheel would fare in a high-speed crash, for example. I don't think that wheel is for extreme high speed because when it will crash, it's gonna split in multiple parts. I mean, by looking at the wheel, that's what I think. The wheel has also some weird design choices. For example, the trolley is at the front of the wheel, so when you trolley the wheel, you have to trolley it backwards if you want to push the wheel. I'm sure KINGSONG was limited in their design choices because of the way the wheel is designed, but still, I would have preferred to trolley the wheel from the back as any other EUC or the middle, but not trolley from the front. So what about the suspension that is kind of the selling point of the S20? At the demo, the suspension was really stiff, so you can't set up the wheel. So imagine you are at a demo and there are a lot of people who want to test the wheel. There's no time to adjust the suspension for any rider. So the place where we tested the wheel had a few bumps, so it was quite convenient to feel the suspension. As I said, for me it was quite stiff. Why I can say that? Because I was filming other guys with the Begode EX that had a suspension adjusted to my weight and I was way more comfortable on the Begode EX than on the S20 that was super stiff. The suspension of the S20 actually reminded me a lot of the suspension of the Begode EX. Why is that? It's because the suspension of the S20, like for the Begode EX, is not really a V11 type of suspension where you are kind of like floaty. It's more like a bump dampener. It means that you will feel the bump, but the bump effect will be softened as you pass it. I feel that it's the concept of the S20 and that's why that wheel is really great for trails, because on trails you want to limit the effect of the bump, of the rock, etc. It's not a type of suspension that you will see on the V11 or even the S18. It's quite different. Overall, I feel like if a rider takes the time to adjust the suspension according to its weight, that suspension will deliver, to be honest. At the demo, unfortunately, I didn't feel the suspension as much as I would like. It was quite stiff, as I said, and especially coming from the Begode EX that was adjusted to my weight, the suspension didn't impress me at all, but again, I'm not gonna blame the wheel for that, it's just a setup issue. So I would like to say that in this video, I don't want anyone to think that the S20 would not deliver suspension-wise, it was just my feeling at that demo, you know, so that's what I'm giving you.
Problems in the paper, put my problems paper, dial up the deputy, mad at my brown. Problems in the paper, put my problems paper, dial up the deputy, mad at my brown. Problems in the paper, put my problems paper, dial up the deputy, mad at my brown. Problems in the paper, put my problems paper, dial up the deputy, mad at my brown. Problems in the paper, put my problems paper, dial up the deputy, mad at my brown.
So how does the wheel ride? What's the speed, the torque, etc. The wheel has a top speed of 43.5 miles per hour. It is a 126 volt wheel, so it's supposed to be a high-speed wheel with way more torque. When I tried it and tried to push the wheel, it was quite interesting in terms of feeling because I felt like I could push the wheel, but I didn't feel the torque I was expecting. Speed-wise, that wheel is quite powerful. I could accelerate very quickly and I could push the wheel even as a heavy guy, and there was no issue with that wheel. I must say I didn't test the wheel with the stock pads. Some guys put the Clark pads on it and I had no choice but to test the wheel with the Clark pads. I'm not a fan of such pads, I hate the locked feeling. But anyway, just to say that I tested the wheel with Clark pads, and yeah, you can push the wheel with no problem and the wheel delivers. So speed-wise, it's quite great. If 43.5 miles per hour is sufficient for you, then the KINGSONG S20 really delivers in that respect. The S20 is delivered stock with a knobby tire, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that the wheel was quite nimble, even if it had this knobby tire. I remember the one from the Sherman, and I also put the same one on my EX, and the wheel was not that nimble. As soon as I put a street tire, then I could carve very easily, and the wheel was quite nimble basically. That's the case on the S20. So I've seen discussion online about changing the tire on that wheel, but to be honest, the stock tire is quite great. I really liked it, and I don't see why I would change the stock tire if I own the S20. When we talk about seated riding, we start to reach a very negative point about that wheel. Why is that? I heard SpeedyFit saying that you cannot brake on the S20. So before testing the wheel, I saw his videos stating that, so I wanted to confirm that, and I confirm it. So I started to ride seated with the stock seat. The stock seat has a really small surface to sit on. If you are tall, then you don't have a lot of space to manipulate the wheel. You can accelerate, you can ride seated with the S20. You can see on the video, I had no problem to accelerate, but the problem was when you want to brake. The brake is really slow because you cannot sit backwards with the stock seat. You have a really limited space to sit on the wheel, and that's a problem for braking. I would hate to ride seated in traffic with the S20. I'm sure some people will figure out other seats for the S20. I can't wait to see the design, but stock-wise, it's not great. Honestly, I would not ride seated on the S20, period. So overall, the KINGSONG S20 gave me a really good first impression. It is a full package wheel with a suspension that will help you to ride with more comfort, a stock seat that doesn't block the trolley, a front trolley with a weird design but it's still there, stock pads that help to contribute to the original design of the wheel, and you have an overall very beautiful, powerful wheel that is not going to disappoint you if you decide to buy that wheel, basically. I was pleasantly surprised by the KINGSONG S20, and I hope that all the small negative points from the pre-production version will be fixed in production and that KINGSONG can deliver an excellent wheel. That's all I got for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and I see you next time.